Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for today's event. Hopefully, everybody is connected and can hear me okay. My name is Mihal, and I'll be moderating the webinar today and looking after everybody. Joining me on the call is Sean O'Shea, whose picture is there on the front slide, who is a customer success partner here at BrightWork. Sean, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I sure can, Mihal. Hi, everybody.
Excellent. That's brilliant. Well, you're all very welcome here, and you as well, Sean, to today's event. As I said, Sean has been working with our customers for a number of years now. Some of you on the call may be familiar with him. So I'm excited for our presentation today. We have loads to get through. I guess what we're talking about here is how you can use the Microsoft 365 platform as your own project portfolio management solution. So I guess we're talking about leveraging your Microsoft 365 stack, something that you're likely to already be using in your organization. And more importantly, it's something that your colleagues and project members are already using and are familiar with. And as we know, if people are familiar with software and interfaces, they're more likely to adopt the processes that accompany them, which would then allow us to improve efficiency, giving your teams everything they need to plan, manage, and track projects. So we're going to look at how you can collaborate in a single project portfolio hub with all your project information in one centralized place. Before we get into our presentation today, I just want to go through one or two housekeeping items. We're assuming and you're hoping that you have lots of questions throughout the demonstration. If you do have a question, please add it to the questions panel in GoToWebinar, which is on the right-hand side of my screen. You may need to expand it out with dropping down the little arrow. If you want to try it out and say hello, please do, and let us know where you're coming from. We will get to as many questions as we can after Sean has gone through some slides and a little demonstration. So please add them there and we'll get to them after, as I said. Secondly, this webinar is being recorded, so don't worry too much about taking any notes. We will send you an email tomorrow with a link to the recording and any slides that we use today, so please keep an eye out for that. One or two people are already saying hello in the questions panel, so I'm glad you found it, folks, and don't be afraid to use it. So some of you may be familiar with us. Some of you may even be customers. For those of you who don't know who we are, we have been making project and portfolio management easy with our solutions for over 27 years now. And we've been doing this for a couple of years using Microsoft SharePoint, more recently through our product BrightWork 365, which is a Power app. It works within the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform stack. We make full use of Microsoft 365 and the Power Platform, including integration with the various Office products. And within the Power Platform, BrightWork 365 leverages Power BI for advanced reporting, Power Automate for workflows and automation, and all your data would be stored in the Microsoft Dataverse in your Microsoft 365 tenant. So that's just a kind of background on who we are. We use a start evolve methodology. So I just want to take a look at that on the next slide. And what we mean by that is you'll be working with a customer success partner, like Sean actually, where together you'll start quickly to deliver immediate visibility and control. And with your success partner over time, you will evolve to the right amount of project management that your organization needs to deliver success. And that's different for everybody. And that's important that we recognize that. So that could be customizing your processes and the tool. It could be a range of things. So just before we get into the presentation and I hand over to Sean, I should say, I just want to run a very quick, simple poll. Are we using Microsoft 365 apps for everyday productivity? Very simple, guys. I just want to kind of get a sense of who we are. So we have yes, we use them daily. We use some, but it's not our primary stack. You mightn't have really considered it, or you're not using any Microsoft products. I'm just going to let this run for a couple of seconds, folks. Good news for us is that 70% of people say, yes, we use them daily. 27% is said we use some of them. 2% of you have said you haven't really thought about it. So we have the right audience anyway, Sean.
Sounds like it, Michal.
Yeah, I'm going to just let that run for 5 more seconds. Folks, we really appreciate you filling out this. This is great. Good to know that we're bringing content that is of use to you. Okay, that's great. Thanks a million, folks. As I said, it came out as 75% said we use them daily, 24% said we use some products, and 1% of people said that they hadn't really thought about it. It's great. That's exactly what we want to hear. Some of you already used the questions panel. Thank you very much. Chris from Lancashire, Oklahoma, Washington, Canada, you're all very welcome. I'm going to take a break for now and hand over to Sean, and I will join you all at the very end if we've anything to discuss in terms of questions. So can you take it away for now, Sean?
Yeah, I sure can. You can still hear me okay, Michal?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, perfect. No, that's great. Hi, guys. Hi again, I should say. Thanks for that, Michal, and for the introduction. Today's agenda, guys, we'll be talking about the various Microsoft toolset and Office suite and so on, you know, elements such as Power BI for business analytics, Teams and Outlook for collaboration, Microsoft Office suite, Power Automate for workflows, and Power Apps for building and providing powerful project templates. The likes of the Power Automate and Power Apps, we will just mention those today. I think we probably need a more technical audience to get into any demonstrations or details around that, but we'll certainly talk to those elements as well and give them mention. BrightWork 365, our BrightWork 365 solution that Michal has mentioned, you know, its natural habitat is Microsoft 365. And what BrightWork 365 does, it ties together several powerful solutions, including those in your organization's instance of Microsoft 365, which I think close to 75% of you are using regularly, and 24 are using occasionally, and that allowing you then to fully leverage your investment in this powerful platform. This, you know, aligned with our 25 years plus or more. I think, Michal, you mentioned more than 25 years experience and innovation with productivity solutions. BrightWork solutions are designed in to let you hit the ground running with project management process templates, best practices, and the appropriate amount of project management processes built right in to the solution. You know, for example, simplifying task management with resource allocation and work reports, and managing deadlines with interactive Gantt charts. Simple to use, but yet have very powerful scheduling capabilities, risk management processes, issue management, change management, and so on. We will overview today with, you know, our integration with Power BI. I'll certainly speak to some slides in a moment, and we'll have some demonstration as well. Teams, Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Outlook for collaboration. Obviously, there's natural integration with the Microsoft Office suite, all those elements, Word, Excel, and so on, that I'm sure you're all very familiar with. SharePoint Online as your document library, and again, mentioned to Power Automate for workflow and business flow and process automation, and Power Apps then for application development and to manage the, you know, the interfaces for those forms, your project management forms for desktop views and mobile views and so on. This slide here, I think it tells a lot. I'd say most of you, if not all of you, will be instantly familiar with all of these. I'd say so much so that once you see the icon, you don't even have to read the text beneath it, because you'll recognize it instantly. Again, I thought to mention the importance of leveraging your existing infrastructure and technology investment, and as well as that, your colleagues, your teams, and so on, are using all these applications anyway and every day. So for, you know, better consistency to use what they know. And of course, that drives greater uptake as well due to the familiarity those people have with this, with all of these apps. As Mihal mentioned earlier, they're already in your stack, and of course they're very, very powerful. BrightWork 365 itself is a Power App managed solution, and that's installed in a Microsoft Power Platform environment. The app is sandboxed into the environment, and only users given access to that environment can obviously use that app. So it's access controlled. And BrightWork 365 uses the Power Platform database for data storage, which Mihal alluded to earlier as well. The Microsoft Power Apps then lets your organization deploy a model-driven, you know, it's less about code and more a model-driven application to manage the full project life cycle. So that's from initial project request right through to the project management life cycle to project completion. Built-in workflow capabilities then let you automate processes for efficiency and accuracy across the product suite, and that's freeing you up to focus on managing other initiatives. And we'll pay much more attention to some of these now, guys, in the next couple of slides before we jump into a demonstration. So in a nutshell, Microsoft Teams, integration with Teams for collaboration. You know, that's in a nutshell. It allowing your teams to collaborate and share on one single platform. Each program within BrightWork 365 is made up of a portfolio which has many programs, and then each of those programs has a number of projects. So a very classic program is marketing, for example, and then marketing has an array of projects. So each program then has a dedicated Microsoft team, and then the system allows you within the project to create a Teams channel then for each of the projects beneath that team. And I'll show you what that looks like in a moment when we get to our demonstration. SharePoint Online, BrightWork 365 is integrated with SharePoint Online as your project management documents library store, as well as the easy addition and retrieval of documents via the BrightWork 365 interface. These projects are then categorized, for example, if it's a project document such as a PID, a project initiation document, or a business case, or it could be a specific document that's attached to a single risk item, or maybe to a specific task as a deliverable. And again, I'll show you that as well in a moment. And finally, before we go to the demo, is just to obviously pay mention to Microsoft Power BI. BrightWork 365 comes integrated to Microsoft Power BI, and with a number of Power BI dashboards that are ready to use right away out of the box. And you know, in essence, Power BI is a very rich reporting tool, so it allows users to get rich, and I would go on to say colorful insights into the BrightWork 365 portfolio, programs and project data, including, you know, things like timelines, resource allocation, task, work, my work, all displayed within interactive reports, which I'll show you now in a moment in our demo as well. So I'm going to switch screens, guys, or swap screens now for a moment. I'm going to bring you into demo. I think first of all we look at the, you know, typical Microsoft Suite integration around Microsoft Outlook. We'll touch on the document management, the other Microsoft Office Suite applications. You know, I'll maybe demo something like Excel Online and how you can use that. Power BI for sure. I'll show you a glimpse of our dashboards and then some of the Power BI dashboards, and then just give you a look and feel for how BrightWork 365 seamlessly integrates with Teams and how users can access BrightWork 365 and their projects via their Teams channel. So just bear with me for a moment while I just swap screens here. Yeah, so if I'm okay, Mihal, you might confirm we're seeing the,
yeah, it looks good.
the BrightWork 365 screen. Yeah, that's perfect. So I don't want to spend too much time on the makeup of BrightWork 365 itself, guys. You know, we can show you this again, and some of you may have already seen it. I suppose I'll get in more into the specifics around today's demonstration. But you know, at a glance, you see these metrics. It's very much end to end. You know, it starts out as a request or an idea or a demand for a project. It then becomes a project, and it's managed within a program, which is part of a portfolio. So if I just jump straight into to my projects, and I pick a request that I've already created for this webinar today, and I'm just really going to talk about how Microsoft Outlook is integrated for. We spoke about integration of business process flows and automation of processes, just to show you how that happens using Microsoft Outlook. This is a request for a project. It was in draft. Somebody has submitted this, and it's now out to be accepted. This is a two-step approval. It goes to be accepted first, and then it will go for approval. For example, a line manager will accept it, and then it goes out to a change board committee for approval. And then once it gets approved, if it gets approved, it then will become a full-fledged project of its own. This is the approvals tab here that controls all of that. Who's going to accept it, who's going to do the approval, and who's going to do the final approval and create projects. Who's going to coordinate all of this, who's going to oversee this request as it moves through all the various stages, making sure that people are assigned to approve it and so on. If all that is done correctly, well, then they're just getting an FYI to say this is moving through the process. So this is an example of a request. If I move to my Outlook here, and I just go straight to this one here, this is an example as an approvals coordinator, getting an email to basically say that this request is being sent for approval. It's going from accept to approve. That's the stage it's at. Here's a link to the actual request itself. Obviously, I'm playing all roles here for the sake of the demo. So I'm the requester and I'm the approver, and I'm also the approvals coordinator. But in the real world, guys, obviously that would very much likely be three very different people. So they'd be all getting these emails at various times during the process. And then obviously the key, I suppose, action coming out here is as an approver, I'm getting an email to come in here and actually approve this request. So I'm getting quite a bit of information. It's telling me I'm being nominated as the actual approver for the stage. Here's all the information I need to know about this request. It's giving me some information from the request form around the, you know, what is the purpose of this project. It's an office move, and we want to move to a more suitable location. And then it's calling out as an alert to the approver, what do they want me to confirm here as well. So it's asking me, as well as approving it, to check that the business case is completed. So I have 3 actionable events here. I can approve it, which I'll do in a moment. I can reject it, so I can do an outright rejection at this point in time if I have that authority to say this is going no further, or I can just send it back to the requester. And the reason I might do that is say, you know what, I need to get a little bit more information around the description. It's a little light, or maybe the business case isn't as completed as it should be. So I just send it back to its original state, and then it comes back around again as an approval process. In this instance, I'm going to approve it, and I'm going to say, look, this is a great idea. You know, please proceed, and so on. And now I submit it, and then the system will kick off the next stage of the actual approval process itself. So now that's email. I can no longer approve except reject. I've done it now, so those functions have automatically got my email. If I go back into my request, I'll see now that in a moment this is going to refresh, and it's going to move on to the next stage. You can see the bullseye now has moved on. I'm getting another series of emails coming through now because it's moving on. And if I quickly look at the history here, it's telling me what's happened. Request is submitted. Initially it was accepted to go to the change board, and now it's been approved, and it's saying a great ID, please proceed. So in a moment a project will be created from this request. So that's just a glance from a request governance perspective. I'm now just going to move to a project, and again I'll use this one. So other examples of where Outlook is integrated is in the status reporting. So if I click on the status tab of a project, there's information I can update about the project. There's information coming in from, let's say, the Gantt and so on, and I can update all these metrics. When I've that done, I can create a status report. So I just come in and create a new status report for this project. It'll attach it to the system, but the other thing it'll do as well is it'll actually email that status report out to all the various and interested parties or stakeholders in that project. And I'm just going to give you a sample of what that looks like. So here's an email coming out from the status report with all the details of the project, the other information that I've captured in the status report around the period ending, any key accomplishment challenges and so on. And it's also picking up then the schedule from the project and the overall project information, the KPIs that I've updated and so on. Obviously, I can forward this email to other people and so on as well. Or indeed, when we're creating the status report, you can decide, well, automatically goes to the manager and the sponsor, but you can include other recipients as well, other, as I say, interested parties or stakeholders to ensure that they get a copy of the status report by email also. The other element then, and finally in the project, is there's an approval process in the actual project to move the project through the actual various stages. And again, it's not too unsimilar to the request approvals process. This is one here I'm getting to tell me that I'm a nominated approver, and this project is going from the initiate phase to the plan phase. So that's an FYI as the coordinator. This one is sending me an actionable email as the actual approver, you know, to approve or reject. So I can move it to the next stage of the project and it'll go into planning, or indeed I can reject it and I can just assume positive intent and say all is good and submit that. And then this comes back and this will now update this project and move it on to the next stage of the next phase of the project. And if I just do a quick refresh, it'd probably take that a moment to update. Let me just try and force an update. If not, I'm not going to spend too much time on the screen for now. We can, it's great. There it has. It's already now moved it into the plan stage. So I've approved it to go from initiate to plan. When the project manager, when he or she is ready to submit it to the next stage, they'll go in and they'll submit it to go from plan to execute and so on. And they can decide, or it could be predefined, who's going to be the approvers for this stage, as well as the closeout and so on. So that's the Microsoft Outlook integration. I'm just going to move into the project management integration, or the document management integration, sorry. So just again, within this project, I have a number of documents attached to this where I've done it already. Obviously, it's very simple. You upload a document and you choose a file, and then you navigate to where that file is located and attach it to the project. So I'm in the main documents tab here, which is my interface to the document, but it's also my interface to the SharePoint on library. So I'm attaching this as a project document. As I mentioned already, I can go into specific items such as this, for example, which is an issue, and I can actually add a document to an issue, which is the desk footprint, or indeed I can go into one of my work items, which in this instance is a task, which is a deliverable, and I can go into that item as well and actually attach my deliverable to that, as I've already done. Same process, you just upload, and here's my task draft deliverable that I've associated with the project. So I can do that in any project. One of the ways to view that, and I'll actually show you now while we're in the document management, I mentioned earlier on when I showed you the slides how that can be categorized in. So let me just jump into a Power BI report that gives an overview of all your document folders, and then all your project folders, and then all the associated documents within that project. So here's all my projects. They're all represented as folders. if I find this one I was just in a moment ago, Office Move Webinar Project, I expand that. I can see I have 3 documents attached. This one is attached to an issue, so it's categorized as an issues document. This is the PID document, the project initiation document, that's attached to the project itself, the overall project. And then this is another document which is attached to one of my tasks as an actual deliverable. So the next thing I'll move to, guys, is just to, I suppose, just to give a feel for some of the other Microsoft Office integration suites, so Word, Excel, and so on. If I just go to an issues view, for example, this is a view of all the issues. I'm just going to go to a smaller view, so I'm just going to look at the closed issues here. This is in the entire portfolio, so these are all the currently closed issues. I can have a number of Word templates, Excel templates, and so on. Out of the box, I can just open up this list view here in Excel Online, and here's the exact same list presented here in an Excel spreadsheet, and I can update this from here. So I can actually, for example, change the status of this from no longer being on hold back to in progress. I can update the issue type. I can give it an alternative name and so on. And then I can save that back to my list view, which is my issues. And the other thing then as well is it'll allow me to track the progress of that save back into the BrightWork 365 solution. So I can just click on track progress here. It shouldn't take too long. You can see here, this is being submitted. If I do a refresh, bear with me again, I'll do another refresh. It shouldn't take too long. And in a moment, I'd be expecting to see this completed. Now you don't have to track the progress. So now it's parsing, and it's obviously parsing the information, consolidating the information, transforming. And we'll give that a moment, and in a second it should be completed. So that's all. I've updated everything in that view in a single Excel Online sheet, and now it's completed. Now I know it's gone back to my project. So if I refresh that view now, so let me refresh my view here. Closed issues. So you'll see the one I changed from on hold back to in progress. That's automatically gone out of this view now. It's obviously in the open issues view, and any of the other items I changed, such as the issue type, I changed that from strategic to other, and that's automatically up there. Dated that as well. So that's a bulk edit on a view using Microsoft Excel Online. So the next thing I'm just going to move to, guys, and we're nearly there, is just to give you a sense of the Power BI integration with Power BI, as we touched on earlier. These are our own dashboards. For example, I can click on a My Work. There is out of the box dashboard. So here's all my open work presented in a BrightWork 365 dashboard. If I go to my dashboards, and select the down arrow here, any of these carrying this iconage here. If you're familiar with Power BI, you'll be familiar with this icon. I can then bring this My Work up in an actual Power BI report. It's very slick. Obviously, I can use these filters here to filter into a specific program, and it instantly returns only the items on that. Just give it a second. In that program, I can clear that filter. I can come down here and click on them based on assignment type. Click in and it only returns the items that are currently in progress, and click back out and so on. And I can click on them based on type. So for example, I'm only interested in actions. I can click there, click back out, and then it returns everything again. The other Power BI reports, portfolio and projects. So this is an overview of my entire portfolio. Again, things like I can use the slices and dialers to pick up a specific program and narrow in on that, or I can use my donuts here and click on marketing here as the example I showed above, or click back out, or by project manager, status, the health of the project, the type, the priority, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of instant capability. It's extremely powerful, very insightful, and I suppose very demonstratable as well, because it's very colorful and very easy on the eye. Some of the other tabs here we have for project status report, so I can pick any project and come out here and get a quick overview of that particular project in one single screen, one single shot. If I clean that here, I can see everything with regards to the percent complete, the metrics, the KPIs, all the open assignments based on assignee and assignment type, and then I have all the data that's rolling up into those views here. Project timelines, again, represented here. I can focus in on a specific timeline, project and task updates, and you'll see similarly, I can key in here. Obviously, I can use the slices and dices on top. I can look to, again, work items, key in on a specific assignee by assignment type, or key in on a specific project and look for the assignments in that particular project. And you can see this is returning everything, and costs and budgets and so on. So that's the Power BI integration. And finally, the last thing, if I come back to my project again, and I look at this project, I mentioned earlier how a program can have a team, and then within that, each project has a Teams channel, and that's stored in that the Teams channel has been created, something that's done simply from the project settings, and then that link is stored here in your project charter. I have another tab here that has already linked me in to Microsoft Teams, so any user can actually come in here and open up the specific project. So if I look at this one, the office move, and if I can have posts and files attached to the Teams channel, and if I come out to the charter, this will actually open up my BrightWork 365 interface. So I can collapse this here, and I can actually integrate with the project. We'll just give it a second to load. So I can actually integrate directly with the project. I can get into the status reports. I can even get into my Gantt chart, my work and so on, everything here from the actual MS, from the Microsoft Teams channel itself, without ever having to go into BrightWork 365. So that concludes the demo, guys. I'll just bring you back to just one or two more slides just to finish off. So if you just bear with me, because two of the things I didn't demonstrate, and I did say I would give mention to them. One is Power Automate. So BrightWork 365 integrates with parts of Microsoft 365 through Microsoft Power Automate, and we would build up obviously flows and processes and so on using that capability. And in addition to that, BrightWork 365 uses several out-of-the-box Power Automate connectors for Outlook, Azure Active Directory, Microsoft Dataverse approvals connectors, and so on. And finally, again, the Power Apps, this is not in scope for today's webinar. As I say, I believe it would be a different audience. But that said, we have qualified and skilled professionals who carry out these functions for you, or indeed work with your Power Apps professionals if you have those skills in-house to support and guide and assist those professionals in building these up on your BrightWork 365 solution and customizing for your business needs. So you're getting, and your project needs, so you're getting that 100% fit for purpose for your project management processes. So just to summarize, because we moved through a number of things there, probably relatively quickly, but before I hand you back to Michal, I suppose all these components integrated, what this means or what this allows you to do is implement a standard approach to managing projects. You have consistency of the apps, but consistency of the process and the flows and so on. Managing project pipeline, like I showed you, that project request, project intake more efficiently, optimizing on resource allocation, project centralizing your project reporting, task management and visibility, improving on that, and I suppose finally collaborate effectively with your with your team and your project team members and so on. And that's, you know, that's to mention but a few. So thank you. Michal, I might pass back to you just to.
Absolutely. That was great. That was fantastic. And obviously, you know, this is high level stuff, and it's a kind of whistle stop tour of, you know, the topic we wanted to talk about, as well as we did have a look at BrightWork 365, which is our solution for project portfolio management. There is some questions coming through, so please do add them if you have any to the questions panel in GoToWebinar. We've a couple there to get through. If there's something that we don't cover today, or if there's something that if you want to see more of the product BrightWork 365, you want to get a custom demo, that's absolutely something that we can organize for you, or we can have a one-to-one call where we can address your specific project management concerns. So I'm just going to drop a note in the chat there to my colleague Adam, who's the best port of call there. Adam can organize, he'll just have a very quick 10-minute chat with you about what you want to see, and we'll be able to organize the best person to talk about your project management needs. Okay, so we've a couple of kind of high-level questions here. There's one or two just about BrightWork 365, Sean, so we might be able to just kind of clear it up. One of them is BrightWork 365 an add-on platform for consolidating all the PM-related functionalities in Microsoft Office 365? It's kind of, I guess.
Yeah, I think in a nutshell, yeah, that's absolutely it. Yeah. And then obviously for consolidating your entire portfolio, program and project management processes and forms and reporting in one single solution. That resides, as I say, Microsoft 365 is BrightWork 365 natural habitat.
And similarly, Fraser kind of had a kind of clarification. Is it a fair assumption that BrightWork solution is built upon SharePoint as its core infrastructure?
It's no, definitely not this version. Not BrightWork 365. We have a solution built on SharePoint itself, but it's built on the Power Apps platform. And it uses SharePoint online as its document library, but it's not built on the core SharePoint infrastructure.
No, but as you mentioned, we do have a product that is built entirely on SharePoint on premises. It's more of a more established product that we do have, and there's information about that on our website. But this one is more built on Power Apps. I would say. William wants to know, will the demo be recorded? Of course, William, yeah. We are recording this demo. So it's actually my colleague Adam, who I mentioned earlier, who will send you an email tomorrow. So we'll send you an email with this recording. We'll send you the slides that Sean showed you already, and there's a couple of extra slides in there just to kind of give you a little bit more context if you were to share it with your colleagues. Let me just see. Fraser has one or two questions. Can you address integration with external applications such as finance? And he has another finance question there. So kind of with SAP and ServiceNow platform, etc. I guess that kind of depends on the connectors, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it obviously depends on how open your system is. But as you can imagine, Microsoft 365 is very open to integration with other systems. So BrightWork 365 being built on the Power Apps platform would inherit that. I won't say it's simple. Obviously, it takes a bit of work and consolidated effort between us and your guys on the finance side. But yeah, it would and should be a high possibility that it could be achieved, certainly with any of the common systems that are out there.
Sure, yeah. Hope that covered your question, Fraser. William has a question. I'm not sure what will this work on a GCC client? I'm not sure what that means. Does that make sense to you, Sean?
It does. I don't have the answer. I think you're talking about a government
I think you're right.
Security environment, yeah, I think it does, but I might get Mihal to confirm it with you. I'm pretty sure we have clients already on a GCC. None of mine,
Government
but
cloud.
maybe, yeah, maybe some of my colleagues. So I'll say yes,
I think
but we may verify that further for you, or maybe Alan to get back, or Adam.
I'm going to give you a tentative yes, William, but that's definitely something I'll have to clarify with our colleagues. David wants to know, how is resource availability and capacity managed?
Currently in the solution, we've resource utilization reports in Power BI, as I mentioned earlier. So currently, it assumes everybody is available 8 hours a day, Monday to Friday, and then based on your assignments, it consolidates that based on that availability. That's step one. But in future releases, we'll be, enhancing on that whole resource utilization journey, such as, things like, well, what is the percentage allocation? And also being able to define your exact availability. It might not be 8 hours a day every day. And if you're assigned to a task across the day, it doesn't mean you're going to be on that task all of that day. So your percentage allocation to that task will be important as well. But currently it does, obviously we have the My Work and the work reports, but there's also a resource utilization report there as well, which is the start of that journey to give you a depiction of who has work and what is their workload looking like.
Thanks a million. These questions are great, folks. Thanks very much. And actually, Adam is actually on the call today, and he has confirmed with me that we do actually install in the government cloud. So,
Jesus.
William, hopefully yeah, it's great to have people online with you. I'm going to keep going with these questions because there's a good few here, and I want to get through them. Can we have users or approvers external of the main domain that BrightWork 365 is set up in? So subcontractors, employees from a sister company. So I guess we're talking about licenses here. We might kind of do an overview.
Yeah. So that they'd have to be a licensed user, they'd have to be a licensed user on the system. Anybody in the organization can actually submit a request, but for the approvals and so on, they'd have to be a licensed user of the system, and that's a much bigger conversation, all around licensing and so on.
Sure.
But we can certainly share all that licensing information. But that's without getting into the granular detail, they'd have to be a licensed user on the system, and then they'd have an approver's role. So not everybody that's licensed as a system can be assigned as an approver. So they'd have an approver's role as well. So that's a condensed lookup. So when you're looking for an approver, it's only the people in the organization that are nominated as approvers can be assigned as an approver. So it means you can't assign an approval to anybody in the organization. They have to be a predefined approver. So it just gives you more governance control.
Anybody can submit a request for free. That's just to clarify that. That when you say anybody can. So this has led on to a bigger conversation, folks, and I see a couple of you have more detailed conversations about licensing and specifically pricing. So what I'm going to do for now is I'm going to share the pricing page with you on the website, which will give you an overview. So hopefully you'll get a link there. And what I would recommend you do is have a scan over that, have a look at the prices per users, and there's an FAQ there about licensing as well down at the bottom. And if you have any further questions, there's contact details on that page as well to get in touch with Adam or one of us as well. So that's probably the best way to address this, because we could go in a lot of different directions of pricing and licensing. So I'm going to switch.
Yeah, that could be a webinar in itself, Mihal. No, that would be a webinar in itself. But I would even say, have a look at that link, but or even reach out to Adam and just get Adam to organize a conversation with himself or one of the sales team, and can get into the nuts and bolts of that with you for sure.
Just one or two questions on how do people use BrightWork 365 on mobile?
Yeah, well, it's a mobile responsive app, as is any Microsoft app. So it's the exact same way as you would use it on any mobile device, just like you'd use it on a laptop or an iPad or a tablet or anything like that. So we mentioned earlier about using Power Apps for form interface, so you can control how it looks like on a desktop and how then that would look like on a mobile and so on.
Let me just see. There's a few different.
It's multi-channel, I suppose. The answer, yeah, it's multi-channel. Sure. to answer your question, but I don't have a mobile app to demonstrate it to you now.
Sure, yeah. How does the solution manage sharing documents with senior leaders within an organization if they're not members of the project team?
Yeah, well, obviously the status reports we mentioned, they can be shared. So anybody in the organization, so they can go to, your project manager, your sponsor, which are on the team. But then if you have other people in the organization, there's an option in the status to report to include additional recipients, but they do have to be in your organization. So you can add them to the distribution list for that as well. Any documents through the BrightWork 365 interface are accessible to the users. Now, your SharePoint Online library, we connect your own internal SharePoint Online library where we store the BrightWork 365 project documents. So, whoever manages your Microsoft 365 systems administrator would be the person that would know how you would share anything in your document library with external entities to your organization. That would be totally down to your own organizational infrastructure setup and how you control and what privileges and accesses you give around that.
Sure. We're getting some great questions today, and folks, if we don't know the answers to some of these questions, we can certainly find them out for you very quickly. So Juan wants to know how much time it takes for implementation and customization. Is there implementation fee? Juan, I'm going to direct you back to that pricing page again. There is some there's some information there on deployment, and we put a lot of thought and effort into the deployment process to make it as quick for you as possible. So please do check that out. Let me see.
Absolutely. And I think that's somebody with that question is definitely sure to open up a call with Adam and the team there to get into details on that conversation. But we have a start service that allows you to get up and running, successfully in a timely manner, and then evolves to, continue to enhance the solution over time.
I like this question from Fraser, actually. Have you any thoughts on post-project implementation monitoring of lessons learned, quantitative and qualitative benefits?
Have we any thoughts on it? Yeah, we have lots of thoughts. How much time have you got?
I wonder if that's tied in, Sean, with our review.
I suppose we have the review and the ongoing review. We have obviously part of the engagement with the customer is we provide a project management success strategy, and then we have project management success reviews, again, all which is elaborated very well on our website, which are set reviews over agreed set time intervals to review, where are we currently at, what is changing, what do we need to do next, and so on. But I'm just wondering, is that question around lessons learned more specific to lessons learned, how you'd manage lessons learned in an actual project? I thought that was my interpretation of it, but
it could be both. Yeah, it could be both.
I'd imagine it probably is, and we have actually built up lessons learned lists and forms for our customers that want to use that capability, and again categorizing, is this lesson learned relating to internal or is it external, or is it relating to scope, or is it relating to time, or relating to cost, and what information, and obviously what pending actions are coming out of this lesson then, so that we learn from it, and we ensure that others don't repeat what we have already maybe learned the hard way. Again, that's a very broad conversation, Michal, so we'd want to have a specific chat around all of that.
Sure. Amy wants to know where the timeline information is entered, or how or where is the timeline information?
Timeline information is obviously your Gantt, is your work breakdown structure. So obviously you set up your work breakdown structure, presuming it has some predecessor logic and so on. So you know, if it's set up properly with the correct durations, you apply a start date to that first task in that project, and then that calculates everything right through to the end date. That's your current start and your current finish, and then you can baseline your project to say, you know, this is when we are now, this is our planned start and this is our planned finish. And then as that timeline changes over time, you can constantly measure your now target finish date based on how we now intend we're currently going to finish it, so on. So that's all done through the scheduling interface on the Gantt.
Very good. Let me just see. We talked about the mobile already. We've talked about licensing. I'm trying to group these as best I can. Ron wants to know, will it work with multiple tenant Microsoft 365s?
That I don't know. I'm not even 100% sure what you mean by multiple tenants. What we yeah, from the BrightWork 365 perspective, we advise that you have a development environment, a test UAT environment, a sandbox, for want of another word, and then you have your production. But you're looking at a single instance then to work across multiple tenants. I'm not sure. We probably need to get more information. That seems to be a very specific question, and I think it was one that needs to be teased out. So maybe we can get those details and align that asker up with maybe someone on the sales team.
And I think a lot of the questions that we have left now, folks, are getting quite specific, and they're getting quite detailed in looking at specific requests for, you know, your specific project management needs. So what I'm going to do now is, I think this is as good a time as any to kind of call it for this call, because we are actually nearly 10 minutes over the time we said we would keep you guys. But we will take some of these conversations offline, if that's okay, folks, and we might kind of pick them up with you guys, with Adam, in the next day or so, if that's okay with you. For everybody else, thank you very much for joining us, and maybe you will reach out to us too to talk about project management in your organization using Microsoft 365. If not, I really hope that you found today useful and that there's something that you can take away from it. It was lovely to have you today. Thank you, Sean, for a fantastic presentation, for taking all these questions. We were kind of a little bit overwhelmed with the amount we got in today, but it's great to see. So I've left Adam's contact details there, who is my colleague. Expect to hear from him tomorrow with the recording. And if you want to reach out to him in the meantime, that would be great too. But for now, thank you very much, folks, and we will hopefully chat to you soon. Thanks again, Sean.
Yeah, thanks, Michal. Thanks very much, guys. And yeah, definitely follow up, guys, with Adam on any questions or queries you have. And yeah, look, thanks for your time. I'm sorry for keeping you maybe a little bit longer than expected.
Thanks, Sean. See you later, folks. Bye-bye.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye. Bye.